working to map out how exponential technologies really are impacting society, business.
Welcome to day 1 of Searching for the Question live. Yesterday we had day 0, and we had quite a few quirks. This is day 1. Will there be additional ones, same ones, different ones? I think that it is very important to experiment and to accept that exactly because the speed of change in the tools that we use and that we want to use is increasing, it is quite hard to know them very deeply, and as a consequence, there will be hiccups. So that is what I want to talk to you about today on day 1, tools and experiments. We go live every day at 7 p.m. CET, which this week is 2 p.m. Eastern Time in the United States, 11 a.m. Pacific Time on the West Coast. And I invite you to join me in order to interact. You can do it on all the platforms where we are live, on YouTube, on Twitter, on Facebook, both on my personal account as well as on my official page, Searching for the Question. As more platforms become available, we will be also connecting to them, hopefully in the near future via Instagram, for example. Today we are going to look at the various software platforms that I am using for setting up this live stream. The rhythm of these events is, for me, pretty frantic. Previously, I was producing a weekly show called The Context, which is still ongoing, but comparing going live for an hour or less, as I'm doing today and that I did yesterday, with producing a half an hour segment once a week is very different. Another important difference is that up to a few weeks ago, I could count on the availability of my team. Mauro, Emil, Graciela, and others would help putting together the context, and I could count on their professionality, on their creativity, on their dedication. Now, they are still around doing their things, but I am physically alone in my study, in my studio. And the fact that I am not necessarily up to speed on everything is demonstrated by me having to re-record the episode of The Context that is coming out on Sunday, because the first attempt was completely out of focus. As I uploaded the 5 gigabyte file for Emil to edit, he told me that it's no good. So I had to re-record it completely. And I am not using a teleprompter. So take 1 of The Context is quite different from take 2. We have both the recordings, and I actually transcribe the recordings in real time. it is one of the platforms that we are going to talk about, even though I didn't prepare exactly the ability to stream the screen. I am just showing you the screen directly towards the camera. This app that Google recently released is quite amazing because it enables you to transcribe what you say completely free. And not only it will recognize your speech, but it will also interpret grammatically what you are saying semantically, inserting periods, restarting the sentence, inserting new paragraphs, and things like that. It is extremely useful to produce a very rough transcription that you can work on later. So anyway, that's the reality. We have to adapt, and we have to take advantage of the tools that indeed make things very, if not easy, very much possible, as long as you are ready to get your hands dirty and you are ready to face the unavoidable mistakes that you will be making. I wanted to prepare, for example, for today, a smooth start of our event. That is why I created a slide, and I started sharing my screen rather than my video. And I shared the proportion of my screen. This is what you see now. And I made two mistakes. One, I left the video up so you could see it on the upper corner of your screen, and I wasn't supposed to show that. I was supposed to show just the empty slide. And the second mistake I made is that I forgot that the system is set up so that when the stream starts, it redirects to my YouTube channel homepage, where there is a featured video auto-playing. And so you could hear that as the stream started in the background, and I had to jump there, stop it, and then pretend that everything was fine, and start the show today. That's fine. When you build a rocket and you sit on top of it and it takes off, you have 1,000 ways it can go wrong. That is what countdowns are for. They start days before the launch with thousands of items to check and double and treble check. And just as it happened with SpaceX a week ago, if there is anything up to the last second, which was the case literally for SpaceX, one thing doesn't check out, you will stop the countdown. And that is because whether we are talking about a swarm of satellites, I need a bit of this just tea, quite cold. Whether you are launching a swarm of satellites and you don't want to blow them up, or actually there are humans sitting on the rocket, the ways that rockets fail is unavoidably catastrophic. And yes, we are trying to build additional tools and systems to make sure that the failure mode is not really something that kills people. But we not always succeed. Now, you want to try things where you know you will make mistakes that don't kill you. And luckily, at least in my case, the things that we are going to illustrate in terms of software and hardware tools. If you make a mistake, you are not going to die. So I want to thank Mikhail and Philip and Marco, who are saying hello from Greece and New York and Paris. And let me reply to them that it is wonderful to see you. Let me show you actually what I'm doing here, because I think it's cool. So part of the platform that I'm using is a unified chat system. And so I can see the various platforms that I'm streaming to simultaneously: YouTube, Facebook, both on the official page and the personal account, as well as Twitter via their Periscope service, and in a unified interface, rather than going crazy switching from window to window, I can read and reply. Thanks for coming to watch. Send questions. And suggestions. Smiley. Now, mind you, this is the very first time I'm using this chat software. Will it work? I think so. Perfectly, maybe not. But that is the way we are experimenting and learning. So let me show you what I want to talk about today as we talk about tools and experiments. I want to talk about what are the tools that I'm using for the live streaming. And then there will be additional episodes of this specific type of segment, talking about the hardware tools, what are the types of microphones, the cameras, and everything else, the lights, and so on. And then we will talk about how to apply these tools to a business meeting, to an online conference, and I will absolutely welcome your input, not only your questions, but also corrections to the things that I'm saying that don't make sense, to everything that I am doing, also enhancing it with what you believe should be heard and seen by other fellow participants and creators of this show. The basic set of tools that I am working with is the set of tools that really is the war chest of well, you cannot even say a digital road warrior. We are not on the road these days, but many of us are using these tools. Zoom is a video conferencing system that is extremely rich in features and characteristics. It has become quite popular over the course of the past, I would say, couple of years, and now is really becoming it is able to be useful in many different ways. Until just a few days ago, I didn't realize you could do live streaming using Zoom. The platform that enables me to provide the live stream across several different destinations is called Restream. And Restream can open and send data to many different destinations, even though I am currently just using it with 3. And then, of course, many of us, if not all of us, use YouTube or Facebook. where we can have various channels, upload videos, but also stream live as I'm doing right now. So let's look at each of these at a certain level of detail, and then we can go back. I want to remind you that searching for the question live goes live daily, and day 1 is followed by day 2, surprise, that is on a different theme. It's about my experience with COVID here in first person at the epicenter of the pandemic. And I will be sharing and learning from you and with you, and I will invite others to take part in this as well. And then day 3 is going to be dedicated to jolting and exponential technologies, the increasing rate of acceleration in the technological world around us, things like artificial intelligence, quantum computing, and how the consequences of these unavoidable changes are leading towards decentralization, and the consequence of that in a profound socio-economic phase transformation being what I call network society. Also, I want to remind you that if you enjoy these pieces of content, as well as the weekly episode of The Context that I invite you to check out, you are welcome to become a supporter or on Patreon. There is a default amount of $5 a month, but you are welcome to pick any amount, less or more of that. And I will be introducing tiers that formalize what are the perks, but what are the benefits of those who want interactively to work with me and receive value from this interaction. How are we going to structure that going forward? So let's go and look at Zoom. Zoom, which is quite interesting piece of software. It is clunky, in my opinion, and the makers of Zoom will definitely disagree with me. But it is a piece of software that has been able to deliver what probably is the most important characteristic of a video conferencing platform: reliability, adaptability, flexibility, both in its video and audio connections. If you go to zoom.us, you can sign up for a free account. And basically everything that you are seeing here is free. There's nothing that I am showing you that is not available in the free accounts. I happen to have upgraded my account to a paid version that gives me, for example, the ability to have meetings that are longer than 40 minutes and other things. You are noticing maybe in the bottom corner of the video window a watermark. And I looked around and asked myself whether I could either substitute or eliminate the watermark. Well, that is quite steep. It is $15 a month to have a paid account if you pay yearly, and $19 a month if you pay monthly, at least today, and who knows tomorrow. But if you want to get away with the watermark, you have to pay in a business license at least 10 simultaneous hosts. So $150 per month, which of course is very much available and also reasonable for a business. But as far as I am concerned, I am too cheap for the moment and didn't decide that I should deny Zoom the branding opportunity. So I guess I should thank them for sponsoring my channel, right? That is the way I could mentally flip this little watermark that is hanging in the corner. Now, one very well hidden feature of Zoom is the ability to stream, as I mentioned, and it is hard to stream the Zoom software itself because it hides when you share your screen. And as a consequence, you have to do some screen captures. So when you open a Zoom conference, you can enable or disable your audio, your video camera, and so on. And if you are on your computer, like I am right now, rather than on the phone, on the right side of your toolbar, there is a classical interface component of additional things, these three dots that we are accustomed to see in many places. And if you click on them, you see the possibility of going live on Facebook, on Facebook Workplace by Facebook, which is a separate but identical version of Facebook for businesses, on YouTube, or on a custom live streaming service. And this is what you would be using for the type of streaming that I am doing, that rather than just directing your live stream to one service alone, covers all of them together. Now, mind you, if you want to go live on YouTube or Facebook, you don't need neither Zoom nor anything else that I'm showing you. You just hit the live button on your phone, and I can't show you because the camera favors my books to be in focus rather than my phone. But the point is that you can go live right away with your phone and just tell your story to the world. I have many friends who do that, and I was always curious, and here I am. I'm doing it too now. Of course, you have to have something to say, and sharing your experiences, sharing your knowledge is a great way to start. You can also share your opinions. You can try to be a comedian or sing or act. There are fantastic and extremely popular YouTube live channels of people studying for hours and hours and hours. They are just studying and not talking to their listeners or the people participating, not interacting. Maybe there is a little bit of chill out music in the background. Millions of viewers. Amazing and pretty incredible. My daughter is in Korea, in Seoul, and we will have Jordana as a guest on the show. I already alerted her, and so she will be able to tell us about this, because in Korea, these channels are very popular. So back to the type of live streaming that I am using and the software components that I am using, the reason I am using Zoom is not because it is necessary, but because of the rich features that it offers. So I couldn't have easily somebody enter as a guest in many other platforms. Here, it is enough for me to give out a URL and people can enter. Originally, I thought you could only do that with the app that you downloaded on your computer or on your phone. But just a few days ago, I discovered that you can join with the browser without downloading a separate app, which is also very good and very cool. Now, the other component of my setup that I mentioned and I want to show you briefly is Restream.io. And Restream is very interesting because it allows you to have multiple services receiving your audio and video data at the same time. And amazingly enough, this is free as well. What we are seeing now is the dashboard that will, of course, display the classical escape to infinity effect as one by one the windows are showing not only the data here on the left, but also the screen itself on the right. And this may confuse you, but try and not be sucked into the infinitely diminishing, iterating, self-referential nature of that part of the screen. If I want to add channels on top of the ones that I already defined, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook page and Facebook account, there is an enormous amount to choose from. Many are gaming related, where live streaming is extremely popular, and some are business related, like LinkedIn, for example. I would be also streaming on LinkedIn, but the LinkedIn video streaming is still in beta, and I sent a request to be enabled for my account on that, and I haven't heard back from LinkedIn yet. Hopefully soon. Kakao is very popular in Korea. VK stands for Vkontakte, is a Russian service. And Dailymotion is popular in France, if I'm not mistaken. And as you can see, many, many others. Now, the free account of Restream limits you to, I think, 3 at the same time. And I'm on a paid tier in order to be able and do other things, as well as to be able and add multiple accounts. And each, when you connect them, asks for to be authorized, of course, and the connection is persistent, so you don't have to set it up every day, depending on the rhythm of your live streaming intentions, of course. In my case, I come back the day later and it still works. Now, it does and it doesn't, because yesterday Facebook didn't work. So day 0 of searching for the question live is only on YouTube and Twitter. But hopefully today it does, and it did work. You are able to set the title of your show as well, either service per service or one for all. And once again, this is not applicable to us or to me, but you can also say what game you are streaming in order to better target your audience who would be interested in one of these rather than the other, and so on. Quite a few games that you may stream for your fans and followers to check out. Discord, which is a popular chat system, is also an indication of the gaming origin or esport origin of Restream.io. It's interesting that Discord is now becoming popular also in remote teams that use it as an alternative, for example, to Slack, in order to coordinate their activities in a close to synchronous manner, a la WhatsApp, and contrary to how email, for example, typically works. So the working of Restream is really very easy, and here there is also some branding. When you start your stream, Restream announces that you are using their platform for streaming, and that's fine. I think that it is okay to be promoting unwittingly or in a manner that is expensive to stop these services. As a matter of fact, I discovered it that way too. I would see somebody going live with the little announcement, restreaming via Restream.io. The ability to realize that these services are useful and to make use of them is quite important. And that is how I discovered Zoom too. I was using another service for my conference calls, quite nice, but it didn't support video, and I wanted video, and I didn't want to go with Skype, right? We used to use Skype, we used to love Skype, and maybe Skype will become cool again, but for a long time, Skype's quality was not up to my expectations. And so I left it and I started using other things. As far as audio conferencing, I was using Uber Conference, which is a nice and functional platform. I loved their custom wait song. If you are in a conference that hasn't started, rather than feeding you some lame rendering of a classical piece of music, they paid an artist to compose and to perform a song talking about how painful it is to be on a conference call when nobody is there. And it is pretty hilarious. Certainly for the first 5, 10, 20 times that I heard it, it made waiting less painful. Then it became equally painful anyway. So I didn't abandon Uber Conference because it wasn't a good service, very simply because I wanted video as well. And that is what Zoom provided. Other platforms that I looked at and didn't want to use are things like GoToMeeting and There are really a lot. But today, as far as I'm concerned, the best is Zoom. Let me take a look at the chat here. More people from South America. Flavio and Mikhail is saying, I'd also like to see a session devoted to cryptocurrencies and financial markets in general. Absolutely. And it will be coming for sure. Michael is also saying, I'm recently using Zoom to share my screen with other colleagues. I think Skype Business and Microsoft Teams is better in terms of functionality. I will be happy to learn about that from you, Michael, or Mikhail, maybe more. Thanks for input. Both for the question of what topics to cover, as well as for the suggestion that Microsoft Teams has good functionality. It's funny and a little ridiculous that I perceive Microsoft as lock-in and proprietary, and not necessarily Google, which obviously it is the same, or Zoom itself. Why don't I think that that Zoom would be proprietary? And I was taken aback a little bit, because as I was researching what I wanted to say during this episode, I looked at RTMP, the real-time messaging protocol, which is the technical mechanism that allows the various systems to talk to each other as they send audio and video data. And I thought it was an open standard, but it turns out it is a very much proprietary solution owned by Adobe that is using its patents to litigate if it perceives that someone is using the protocol in ways that they don't want to happen, which is the very definition of what is a non-open system. So that is definitely not good. Whether we are talking about Twitter, or we are talking about YouTube or Facebook. These are today all systems that are horribly closed. And you may not agree with me about how closed they are or how horrible their being closed is. But why shouldn't it be possible to just embed a live stream the way that we embed an image? Did you notice that when you share a YouTube link on Facebook, it doesn't autoplay? If you set to enable Facebook to autoplay its own videos, you may opt to want that functionality to extend to YouTube videos that are in your news feed, whose links have been posted by others. And certainly this would be technically possible, but Facebook chooses to artificially degrade the experience of outside links so that you are incentivized to post native content. And now we are at a point where we upload content multiple times. A lot of content managers or social media managers, rather than being able to write once and post everywhere, or to embed as it should be possible under open standards, have to manually repost from one to another, or even using products that are aiming at making this work easier, they realize that things have to be rewritten. There are some natural differences, like Instagram wants square photos. So it is not surprising that if you post a portrait photo or a landscape photo rather than square, it is not going to work. But why shouldn't be it possible to tag somebody across multiple platforms? Yeah, if I have a different and separate identity from one to another, that's fine. But I am David Orban everywhere. And I would appreciate offering the functionality to others who want to tag me to be able to do so once and for all. But the mechanism is different at each platform, whether it is LinkedIn, Facebook, or Twitter, or so on. And this is not technically necessary. This is done on purpose in order to create walled gardens to embrace and accrue value only to that particular platform, damaging everybody in the process. Now, we will talk about it a lot. We will talk about not only what is the status, but what should happen in order to move the world in the right direction, in the direction that we really want to go. So I am going to be closing this day 2 of searching for the question live soon. And I want to thank you for following and for sending me your questions. Just to show you that as well briefly, your questions appear to me here in this separate window. And as you can see, I am happy for them and was happy to answer them. And I am going to repeat that after day 1 tomorrow, I will be talking about COVID-19, my first-person experience here in Bergamo at the epicenter of the worldwide pandemic in Italy. It is not going to be a fun hour, but I think it is going to be necessary. A couple of days ago, I gave an interview to Baratunde Thornston, a Brooklyn-based author, speaker, journalist, who is also very funny and very smart. And he just started live on lockdown, his own way of looking at how the coronavirus is impacting New York. And I came on his show and told him my experience. He edited it, put it online, and now this picked it up. Now this has about 14 million likes on Facebook. And the video they produced using the interview between Baratunde and myself clearly highlights how important it is to learn from Italy's experience so that other countries that are on the same exponential trajectory, just a few days shifted, so that their cases haven't exploded yet. And how can those countries avoid some of the really crazy components of the situation as it is in Italy? So that is what is going to be tomorrow. And the day after, we will be talking about all kinds of technologies. I call jolting technologies those who are more than exponential. An exponential technology has a constant acceleration. For example, Moore's law that says that electronic circuits should see their component parts doubling in number for an equal area, i.e. their size goes down every couple of years or so. It is a self-fulfilling prophecy where engineers all over the world work to make it happen. And they have been able to do so for 50 years and more. But there are technologies like artificial intelligence whose doubling factor, whatever we are measuring, is not constant, but shrinking, which means that the power of AI is on an increasing rate of acceleration. Jolt is the name of the mathematical term where we are talking about the first derivative of acceleration, a varying degree of acceleration. It can be applied for acceleration going to zero as well, but we are referring to a jolt here that depicts the situation where we see an increasing acceleration. And that is also the feature of quantum computing and others that we will examine. So thank you very much. I remind you that if you enjoy this kind of interaction, you can send me your questions, suggestions, and you can go to patreon.com/David Orban to become a patron, to become a supporter of this show, as well as many others. There are creators of many kinds, artists, comics. There are people who teach you specific skills. And I love how we have this possibility of connecting and enjoying each other's entertaining company or sharing of knowledge and wisdom. And I'm looking forward to be continuing it with you for a long time. And with that, I thank you, and I see you tomorrow at 7 p.m. CET, 11 a.m. PT, 2 p.m. ET. Bye-bye.